know we're recording, even if I can't put a title in. Okay, there we go. And you can hear you, and you can hear me, and I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now?
Can I come in your ear?
Yes. Matthew, please don't file. We were talking about audio.
Oh, right. Matt didn't hear the.
And then right. I'm trying to excuse your behavior. Yeah, it had a point,
boy.
Matthew. It was Joshua is not making a request of you or me. It's just, I'm sorry.
I mean, unless you want to, but no,
That's
I'm not.
between you
Okay.
two and your God. I'm not judging. Whatever happens between two grown-ups is your. Okay. Anyway, sorry, Matthew.
Good morning, Matt.
Oh yeah. Good morning, Matt. Okay. I need to beg for reviews.
Yeah. I mean,
I haven't
don't
said
know.
it in a long time. I keep
It's
forgetting.
been a bit, and I keep forgetting too until okay. I keep forgetting to say something, or do you want me to?
Yeah, it's your fault. Why don't you say
No.
something?
Do you want me to beg for reviews?
That's so sweet of you, but I'll try begging.
Okay.
I'll try begging on my own. If I fuck it up, then you'll have to. Oh yeah, take this off. You'll have to. It's a bracelet, Matt, not my shirt. Just so you know. I'm like, oh yeah. Before we start, I have to take this off.
I gotta take out my earbuds so that you can come.
Stop it now! God damn it! Oh my lord, why? Maybe the note was about you that I wrote. I wrote a note on a legal pad, Matt, and it says "men who are not subtle," and I don't know what it means.
Not subtle.
Yeah,
at all.
I feel like that's Joshua.
Subtlety is not my strength.
No, as my mama used to say, you put the B in subtle. Yeah, from a long line of smartasses. Alrighty then. Not sniffing. Yes, I'm sniffing. Do we both have allergies? Are we allergic to each other?
I think the temperature change.
Oh, up and down.
Switches stuff for me.
Yeah, probably. From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tipsters, America's favorite true crime podcast. And I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. And with me today is my beautiful co-host, Joshua Bevan. I'm not even going to say hi, because then you'll say hi.
Okay, then I won't say hi.
You can say, how if you just start saying things in different languages?
Oh, because we have have listeners from all over the world.
Yes, we do. 42 countries or something.
All right, I need to learn hello in Mandarin. Where do they speak in Macau? Cantonese? Okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I've failed you, Macau.
Maybe one of the
Finland
Macau
too.
listeners and one of the Finnish listeners can
tell us how to say hello.
Email us.
I've gotten very nice things from listeners in Poland.
Okay.
Of course, they speak English in Australia, or they think they do. So,
Yeah. Email us, tell us where you're from, and tell us how to greet you in your native tongue.
Right. Bent over is what Joshua was going for. That's what you just bend over and walk towards him. Yes. That's how you say hello to Joshua. But that's in any country.
It's a very, very genial greeting.
It's very specific. Very specific.
Welcome to our country.
You are kind of the welcome wagon of the podcast world. You're very welcoming. Okay, so after Joshua is reported to HR again, I'm going to ask the tipsters if they are so inclined to leave us a rating or review wherever you catch your pods. They say Apple Podcasts is the largest platform, and that's where a lot of people get reviews, and that's how people find us. But you can review us on any of your places you hear us: Spotify, iHeartRadio, any place like that. So we would be grateful for some more reviews. I'm just always so happy, even if they're crappy, which I'm so happy, even if they're crappy. Mm-hmm. That's going to be, I'm getting shirts printed.
That's the new tagline.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just happy, even if they're crappy. So one of the things I love about YouTube, because I do not understand why people listen to podcasts on YouTube. If it's, a video.
It has the video, yeah.
No.
Do you have cameras here? Did I not notice the cameras?
That's really none of your fucking business, is it? perhaps I go over the footage after you leave.
It's fine.
You know there's one in your chair, right?
Oh, God.
There's a chair cam. Yeah.
Under the table?
Yeah. No, it's in your chair. It's actually in the chair.
In the chair?
From the moment you sit down, it's activated, and then when you leave, yeah.
See, I thought you didn't know that I took my pants off right after you sit down.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
All right. Cool.
I can't believe you even show up wearing pants. I mean, why?
It's cold
the
outside.
extra step? Why the extra step? Nut job. No, we don't have cameras. I love when people have a podcast and have a camera, except to me, it takes away the entire joy of a podcast, which is auditory.
Right. I mean, it's
like a book on tape that you play in your car and you have to look at the screen. That's called television. I don't know why.
It's a different thing.
Yeah. So anyway, YouTube, one of my favorite things about YouTube is that you get notified if someone's, commented on an episode, and someone whose name I don't remember before blocking him.
Oh no.
Just likes to comment when the story starts. Okay, sorry, it said lost connection, then it said reconnected. Sorry, I just forgot. It's happened to us before, and it's fine. But Matt might have a little hiccup. Okay. Speaking of that, I had to belch. Yeah, it's happened where people are like, story starts at 14:05, and I'm like, okay.
So he doesn't like our banter.
Right. But he wants to let everyone else know when the actual story starts.
Yeah.
I have found true crime fans are unique. Some of them are okay with us talking beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them only want the story
Just
and the bare bones.
Give me the meat.
Right.
Sure.
So why does everything sound dirty when it comes to your face?
I did not even mean that dirty.
Give me the meat. I'm having shirts made with that. Shirts made with give me the meat. And I'm just happy even when it's crappy. We're gonna a whole line of a whole wardrobe with catchphrases. So anyway, yes, there are people. It's one of the things I love about this genre and others, but especially something that's like a storytelling one. Sometimes people just want maybe a disembodied voice to read someone's story.
Sure.
And I get that. I, however, am a sparkling personality, and people...
Are you?
Yeah. Well, apparently not according to you.
Cool.
But yeah, occasionally I get an email where someone says, "I love the banter between you and Joshua," and I'm like, "That's very nice." Why? Oh, I was like, "What is that?" I thought you were official, but I know what it is.
Oh, that's my copy.
I know, I get it now. And I was like, "But you're not. You know how you're not prepared."
I bring notes. Come on now. I'm super professional.
Look, speaking of that, you have the most interesting writing. It's very tiny and it's very precise. It almost looks like type, from a typewriter.
Thank you.
It's the handwriting of a serial killer. That's all I'm trying to say.
Why do you think I'm here? I need to learn things. Because you just like
people's stories. Right. You want to know what mistakes to not make.
Don't make these mistakes. Right.
Great. That leads me to, and you didn't even know this, I was telling Joshua, I have legal pads all over the house, and sometimes I write notes and I think I'm going to remember. So I have one page with 2 sentences, 2 lines, and I know where the top one comes from because it came from my friend Suzanne, who is binging the podcast on her way to and from work. And she said, "I wonder how many true crime podcast hosts are actually murderers."
Oh, wow.
I know.
Huh.
So I know. Which is funny that you said that's why you're here. You didn't even know I was going to say that.
No.
Susanna's like
I was joking, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you're not. Susanna's a brilliant human being who loves true crime and a lot in history and legal things, but now she's binging a lot of true crime. But she's like, I wonder how many podcast hosts are killers. And I thought, let's hope it's a small amount. Like, let's say a guy who goes to get a PhD in criminology and then kills 4 people.
Sure. Someone like that.
Yeah, someone like
allegedly,
that. Allegedly. Yeah, allegedly. Thank you, counselor, for keeping me from getting sued all the time. So, yeah. But then the next line on this page with only 2 lines says, "Men who are not subtle." So I don't know what that's about.
Men who are not subtle.
Mm-hmm. The top says hosts who are killers and men who are not subtle.
Huh. What is it?
Could be some of the pictures I've received in the last couple of weeks, which I've shown Joshua. And they're not terrible, but they're certainly not warranted.
They're not subtle.
That's it. There's clothing on the lower half, but the upper half, I'm like, do I need to see?
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. I've never wanted to send people. Men are visual. I'm just going to say that. I'm definitely much more auditory.
Well, I am too. I am also a man.
Oh, you're a man? Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it.
Yeah.
Is the more visual people.
But they seem to think instead of like I want pictures of you, sending me pictures of them. And I make it sound like it's a lot and it's just one, but I'm like, we were talking
is it supposed
about murder,
to be
sir?
A clue that quid pro quo here? You can't send me one back. Like,
yes, that's what happened.
Okay.
He speaks in emoji, and I'd sent him a picture of me in Siren, and he said I was hoping to see the emoji for cat. So I sent him a picture of me in my cougar outfit for Halloween.
Yes.
Because I am subtle.
Yeah.
And that's the only cat you're seeing this evening, sir. Have a good night. So men who are not subtle. Maybe I wrote that about that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's podcast hosts who are not subtle.
Oh, yeah. Well, that would be me. I'm definitely not subtle. As I was saying to Joshua earlier, my mama said, you put the B in subtle. She was talking to me about me. So yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah. Oh God, another just priceless gem of hers. There was a woman at church who was so sweet, but just went on and on and on. Like she was very nervous and she would talk a lot like stories that had like no middle, end, or beginning. And one day my mom, after we got out of her realm, said, some people are vaccinated with phonograph needles. Which took me a while to understand that reference. But that's the kind of smart woman I came from. Yeah. Some people are vaccinated with phonograph. Yeah. And I was like, does she sing? I don't understand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she talked a lot. So I just want Joshua to know that the Tipsters are always thinking of him and worried about him.
Oh, no.
And Tipster Katie, I think, found great joy in your, I had one here, but I brushed it off, in your fear of detached hairs. I was going to taunt you. But she suggests that you go on the podcast, Your Weirdest Fears.
Your Weirdest Fears, okay.
And discuss your, she wants you to dig deeper about the source of the detached hair issue.
Lay down on the couch.
That's what she said. Yes, that's what she said. I mean, she didn't say exactly that, but
it all started. Yeah. All right.
It's usually when we're kids. I mean, come on. It's usually when we're kids, right?
Yeah. No, it's weird. It's definitely weird.
It's not weird. It's yours. I mean, we all have, like, haven't you ever met people who are like afraid of styrofoam or something? Or
well, I'm not specifically that one, but now that you mention it.
So one of my favorite expressions of our likes and dislikes, and I can't remember the exact movie. It was a Billy Bob Thornton movie. It might be the one with Laura Dern called Daddy and Them. But they're talking about fears, and he goes, you know what I fear the most? Antique furniture and little people.
Okay.
And I get that. Especially antique furniture.
Okay. Like,
I don't like antiques.
You don't? Okay.
I don't know if his character felt they were haunted.
Okay.
Or what?
Or just they're old, so it's like the chair's gonna break if you sit in it.
Maybe that's it.
Huh.
Antique furniture and little people. And I was like, that's
little people. Okay.
That's funny. I feel like it's important to be in touch with the shit that we're, fucked up about, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I admit it.
Sure. As opposed to just stuffing it down and
yes, not good.
Yeah.
So I had an interesting discussion with a very wonderful friend this week who works a lot and doesn't sleep a lot. And I said, you don't sleep much. Are you human? And he said, as far as I know. And then he said, my secret is probably undiagnosed autism.
Okay.
And I said, well, I think we're all autistic somewhere on the spectrum, don't you?
Sure, absolutely.
At least most interesting people I know are.
Yeah.
Sans myself. I mean, I'm probably autistic, but I'm not interesting.
Fair.
And he said the most beautiful thing.
Oh.
My therapist thinks autism are just versions of the evolved perfect human with more empathy and in touch with their emotions.
Oh, wow.
Is that the most beautiful thing?
I like that.
So I said, oh my God, may I please ask for your therapist's hand in marriage?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you would love him. He's in his late 70s, but he could pass for 40s or 50s. And he sent me a picture of him. And he is a handsome man, but he eats shellfish. And so I'm out.
You can't.
I'm
be
highly
with
allergic to
someone who
shellfish.
eats. I did not realize that.
Oh my God, I'm deathly allergic. So
Okay.
now you're going to stuff shrimp up my butthole when I'm not looking, aren't you?
No. Wait, it's so allergic that somebody else eating will trigger you, or
what if I were to like kiss them or something?
Oh, for sure. Okay,
Like
I'm with you.
if you eat shellfish on your own and I'm like at the same table, I'm not going to have a fit or something.
So I don't need to worry about my breakfast before I show up. Is
Yeah, you can eat all the shellfish you want for breakfast, weirdo. I don't care. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, you can do that. But here's just a small tidbit. I have been places where I will eat my regular food and then I'll be like, or the roof of my mouth.
Oh,
And Mark is like, oh shit, there was some shellfish. And I'm like, oh no. So, and then we'll say to the servers, like, hey, is any of this stuff cooked near shellfish? And it's like, oh, we do our best to keep it separate. And I'm like, no, okay.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. I thought I told you this story that I didn't know until my mid-20s.
I don't know.
I was on a cruise. I was my one and only cruise. I won a cruise when I managed a comedy club and to Mexico and
Nice.
like Carnival, crappy cruise, whatever. So one night is like the captain's dinner. It's all like fancy and shit, and you get all dressed up.
Sure.
And the menu was surf and turf.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? And I've hated shellfish since I was a kid. Like my mother loved, she'd make herself shrimp cocktail for dinner and then make me like a pork chop.
Okay.
Because I was just
because you
like,
just didn't want it.
Ew. Yeah. The idea of it made me ill. I hated the
okay.
smell, the texture, all of it.
Right.
And I feel like that's, your body's higher intelligence telling you don't.
Totally. Like my kids are not picky eaters, but when they're picky, like I never push stuff because of that. Like,
right.
do you not want it because it looks weird, or do you not want it because your body's telling you
something
hey,
important?
Don't eat that.
So I thought I was, gonna do the right thing by eating the surf and turf because everyone loves lobster. And I ate one bite of lobster dipped in butter, and I thought, wow, why does anyone like this? It tastes like rubber bands.
Rubber bands dipped in butter, though.
I know pretty much anything dipped in butter. I would rather eat rubber bands dipped in butter than lobster.
Sure. No, but yeah.
So I was wearing something like this, like off the shoulder. And, you're at a big round table and it was like a fancy dress because it was captain's dinner. And everyone at the table's like this.
Just staring at you.
Like going up and down.
Like up your, up your.
And I was like, and I look down and I'm hives just all.
Oh no.
And then I'm like the roof of my mouth is itching. I'm like, my roof of my mouth itches. And you know how they have like from different countries, your little like concierge who comes to your table.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Ours was from Italy. And he goes, miss, I'm going to get you a Benadryl and I'm taking you to the doctor. And I'm like, okay. Like I have no idea what's happening or why. And the doctor, I always referred to him as Adam Bricker, like from Love Boat, but it wasn't Adam Bricker.
Sure. Okay.
He gave me some sort of shot and then he goes, don't you ever eat shellfish again. I'm like, sold.
Right. I didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. So please don't like eat a bunch of shrimp and then show up and like give me a big, deep, soulful kiss because I'll die unless you want me to die. And then you should do that. And here I'll be thinking, he's making notes. Son of a bitch. I was like, and here I'd be thinking, Joshua loves me. Nope. He's tried to kill me.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So yeah, hosts that are killers and men who are not settled. You're both of those, apparently. Both of those. Okay, so it's now time to beg. It's time to beg for reviews. We haven't had some review. Oh, I already did that.
You did that.
Sorry,
you can do it again.
You can cut that out. Sorry, Matthew. I'm going to beg a bunch of times. And you know what I thought? I thought I didn't have it turned on to record when I said that. All right, so Katie's suggestion, you go on your weirdest fears.
I like it. I'm in.
Okay. And I feel like that is a wonderful entree into how's your balls?
Oh my god!
Zing! I gotcha.
I love your transitions.
Smooth. They're very subtle. They're smooth like glass. So,
well, Melissa, breaking news. Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro kit. And if you enter the code just the tip at manscaped.com, you can get 20% off and worldwide shipping for their new products to make your drapes match your carpet.
Right, which we had that discussion last week. Yeah,
I like it.
I'm still a big fan of the T-shirt I got, and I get great reviews on the boxers from friends who I would want them to come on and talk about it, but they're uncomfortable discussing their testicles on a podcast.
I don't understand why.
Because not everyone's like you and me, I guess. I don't know. My friends are sissies. I don't even know how to quantify that. It's like
people ask me all this. Oh, what do you don't know about true crime? Like, why are you on a true crime podcast? Oh, because I talk about my balls.
Right. That's the only reason you're here. The only reason you're here. You to look pretty and discuss your genitals. That's pretty much your reason for living, I thought.
That's my life.
Yeah. That is your life. No. Talking about okay.
Well, thank you, Manscaped.
Yeah, thank you, Manscaped. So this story came to us from my beloved friend Tipster Suzanne, and she sent it to me, and I was like, I don't want to talk about this, but sometimes something is so compelling, not so much for the actual story, because it's very similar to other things we've heard and people who suffer in their relationships, but the way this author wrote it is almost like poetry. And his name is Michael J. Mooney, and it's from a publication, I guess probably in Florida, because it's called like the New Times. Okay. You can find it online. But he wrote this incredible, almost timeline. I mean, it's an article in a small publication that there's a lot of amazing journalists, like people that started at the LA Weekly and then turned out to be great authors. Like I can think of like Christine Pelisek, who started chronicling the Grim Sleeper. She actually gave him the name the Grim Sleeper.
Oh, okay.
The LA man who worked for LAPD in the automotive shop and killed over 50 women.
Oh, wow.
Right. So Lonnie Franklin Jr. So Christine is an amazing journalist, and I know there's lots of others, but you're probably making like $1.50, and you're in it for the love of the journalism.
Sure.
So this guy, I don't know Michael Mooney, but I can tell you I'm a fan of his writing. It's beautiful. And this is the story of how Jessica Kalish was probably killed by her ex-wife, Carol Ann Berger. And you'll see why we say probably, because this is not a good ending. It's not a probably good middle. I think I thought you were going to belch. I think they had a good beginning and an interesting story in how they met and then came back together. But the ending is really, really terrible. And it's probably, you get a clue into how women in relationships who are possessive and destructive handle things as opposed to men.
Okay.
I feel like with men, there's more expediency. Like you hear about it. It's like murder, suicide.
Oh, sure.
This was
like it's drawn out. It's more passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Passive in one way.
Okay.
But you're going to hear some things that are shocking to me. They're shocking to me.
Okay.
So, October of 2008, Carol Ann Berger called the police, and she sounded very panicked and said, I don't know if this is an emergency, but it could be. She's, talking to 911, and she said, my girlfriend didn't come home last night. And then she immediately changed her statement to my roommate. And she said, it's very unusual. She went to the gym last night, like 8:30 or 9 or something, and then she didn't come home. I woke up this morning, she wasn't here. I just got a call now from the woman at Pyramid Books. Somebody turned in her wallet and her keys, and the 911 operator is making notes, and you can hear the audio. And she's walking around the house, and they probably have hardwood floors because her heels are clicking. And the speed picks up. Like the
Oh,
more
she's pacing faster. Okay.
yeah, the more anxiety she has, the more she is walking quickly.
Yeah.
And she just keeps saying, I don't know where she could be. I don't know where she is. So the 911 operator, sorry, Matthew. The 911 operator asks for her address, and Carol gives it to her, but she sounds kind of hesitant.
Okay.
Because I think she realizes at this point there are going to be people investigating in her house.
Right.
And she's like, well, I had an appointment at the unemployment office. And then she goes, I guess I can call them.
Wow. Weird.
Yeah. So the operator's like, ma'am, we have to ask you some questions. And she said, okay. And the operator says, I'm sending someone over to you right now. So Officer Evelyn McCoy arrives at their house in Boynton Beach, Florida, and Carol's 57 and Jessica was 56. And Carol has on a pantsuit and 3-inch heels, which is why they were clicking on the floor.
To go to unemployment?
Yeah, she's all dressed up to go to the unemployment office. Yeah. Maybe they did that back in the 2000s,
I guess.
Joshua.
All right. I don't.
You don't hang
I
out
don't
there?
hang out at
Right.
unemployment, so I don't know how people are
Yes, you
dressed.
do. You're always on the dole.
I had a picture of a
slovenly dressed.
Yeah,
no. Maybe they back then they like gave you job leads and you want applied or something.
Sure. Okay. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Just stop being so judgmental. So Carol Ann says to Officer McCoy that she lives in this house with her ex. She calls her her ex-girlfriend. They were actually had gotten married, I think, in Michigan. But Florida didn't recognize same-sex marriages. So they were separated, but they were still living together. And Jessica had left the evening before. Carol Ann estimated 8:30 or 9. She had gone to work out, is what she said, at the LA Fitness near there where she had a membership. Now, what's interesting is that Carol says she left at 8:30 or 9 or something to go work out at the gym and never came back. And the truth is, Jessica left at 7:30 and worked out for an hour and came home. But Carol Ann, in her mind, has pushed it up to maybe block out what happened. When Jessica got home.
Okay.
Very, very telling. And the reason we know all the time is because when you check in with your card.
Sure, it's got a log.
Yeah, exactly. So Carol just keeps saying, I don't know where she could be. This is so unusual. So the officer looks around and doesn't see any kind of sign of a struggle. So, it's like early afternoon now. She puts out a missing persons alert at 4 p.m.
Okay.
And by that time, it's able to be on the evening news. And in the next day, it's on every local TV channel and in every newspaper that, came out in the morning.
Okay.
So Jessica was a very outgoing software executive, and she ended up in Florida, and she hosted a gay and lesbian radio talk show called Alternet.
It's a good name.
Yeah, it's a great name. And that was in Miami. And Carol Ann, was a writer, and by all accounts, a really, really good writer. She worked for Huffington Post, and I didn't realize that when you work for Huffington Post, it's mostly unpaid.
Sure. Yeah, they take freelance.
Yeah. So she covered the Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, she was like a very political activist kind of person, and apparently a really terrific writer. Everyone who worked with her at any of the newspapers she worked at or any kind of publication all said the same thing. I had the highest respect for her. She won many awards for her journalism. I mean, she's not a nothing here.
Nice.
But I think Jessica was always kind of the powerhouse.
Okay.
She was very ambitious and did a lot of things. So, according to Michael Mooney, to the outside world, it would look like these two very professional women have the best life.
Cool. Okay.
They live in their house. It's a beautiful, immaculate little house. They have a screened-in cabana area. They have a pool, and they have adopted 2 racing greyhounds.
Cool.
Yeah, so they have like the perfect life, right? So after 11 p.m. the next day, a woman driving on Congress Avenue spots Jessica's BMW sedan, and it's between 2 dumpsters. And here's the weird part. It's around the block from a police substation.
Oh, no.
The driver's side window is smashed in. There's blood spatter on the left side of the car and on the back tire and on the undercarriage.
Oh, jeez.
There's more blood and hair, the color of Jessica's hair, along the rear bumper, at the edge of the trunk, and on the upholstery of both front seats. And then in the back seat, there on the floorboard, stuffed headfirst beneath the back of the driver's side seat, is Jessica. Her legs are bent awkwardly, and her 56-year-old body has been found in her car.
Wow.
Now, this is one of the things I love, is that the lead detective, Alfredo Martinez, was there within 20 minutes after it was discovered, and he said, this is no indiscriminate robbery or a random act of violence. When I looked in the back seat at first glance, you could automatically see this was an emotionally driven crime. And you'll hear how emotionally a little later. And Officer Martinez says somebody was in a rage.
Wow.
So Jessica was really accomplished. She spoke 4 languages. She had a black belt in karate. And, she was like this very tough, strong woman. She was like very tall and very lean. And Carol Ann was like short and, not stocky, but like athletic. Okay. Very athletic. I love that this description from her friends, they said Jessica had eyes that were like tiny flames.
Oh, wow.
I know. I thought that was kind of a beautiful,
Cool.
She liked, single malt scotch, cigars, and very smart, passionate women. And Carol fit all of that, when they met. She fit all of that. And it's an interesting meet. It's a meet cute, like what they call in the movie world, you'll see. But she ended up leaving her house when she was 17. She grew up in Forest Hills, and she moved to Greenwich Village. It was the 1960s, and she wanted to be the fearless lesbian. Okay. So she kind of, lives the bohemian lifestyle, but she ends up, she's so fucking smart. She would have made a terrible hippie. She gets a scholarship to MIT.
Nice.
A scholarship to MIT.
Nice.
And she enrolls in the engineering department. But to pay her bills, she's a bartender at a lesbian bar, and then she drives a taxi at night.
Right on. You're done.
So late one night in the 70s, the friends who introduced them disagree on what exact year it was. A group of women flag down Jessica's cab and dump a very drunk, petite, fiery woman in the back seat with instructions to take her home. And Jessica liked the woman, Carol Ann Berger, and they became friends. And then later on, they, became lovers.
More than friends?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then they ended up kind of moving. Oh my God, your tummy.
Excuse me.
Are you okay?
Oh my gosh.
You're dying. You're dying.
I'm dying. Sorry, man.
He's not sorry, man.
I'm sorry.
They end up sort of, moving into their own separate directions. Carol moves to Hawaii and she becomes a scuba instructor. Jessica ends up moving to Miami and she works like at a bunch of tech companies.
Oh, okay. So they don't like get hitched then. Okay.
20 years later.
That's wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jessica ends up, hosting her radio show, and then she starts working in a series of tech companies. I'm sure she got poached and, got different because she was so fucking brilliant. So here's Carol, also from New York, and she's this small kind of crazy maned, big bunch of curly hair, and Jessica's hair is kind of dark and straight, and she's tall and thin. I mean, they're like, very opposite,
Okay.
but they're, drawn together. Um, like Jessica, Carol was very passionate about politics. And one of the things that Jessica loved is that she would quote Shakespeare and obscure trivia. So, I mean, I get it. And their favorite show was CSI, which is, foreshadowing. Big, big foreshadowing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
know. Yeah. So Carol Ann had kind of grown up in a similar situation where she just didn't feel like that she was supported by her family. There's, differing stories that both Jessica and Carol Ann withdrew from their families. Both of them expressed it to others that their family did not appreciate their lifestyle and didn't support them.
Got
So it might be somewhere in the middle,
it. Okay.
but I can tell you Jessica's parents ended up paying for their wedding in
Oh.
Michigan. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So both of them had ended up telling their friends that their family had shunned them, but their families are like, no, that
No.
didn't, it wasn't
Okay.
exactly that. She withdrew from us.
Got it.
And here's something I think is so interesting that their friends say, you know what? Carol loved all animals. She was so sensitive. If she found a cricket in the house, she would scoop them up and take them outside.
Mm.
And sometimes she would get upset if even the thought of an animal being hurt entered her mind, just the thought of it.
Oh.
We'll see what that
Mm-hmm.
sensitivity does later.
Sure.
Okay. So they have this beautiful life together. They buy this house together. They make friends with all their neighbors. Uh, when new neighbors move in and they notice a conservative bumper sticker, they bake a cake and go over to the neighbor's house. And they answer the door, and the kids are standing there, and they go, "Hi, welcome to the neighborhood. We're gay." Right.
Ta-da.
If there was like a rally anywhere, they were the first two there with signs. Um, this is interesting. When George W. Bush moved troops into Iraq in 2003, Jessica and Carol began flying their American flag upside down. So,
Okay.
yeah, I know. So Jessica was always the moneymaker, and she was beautiful and accomplished, and Carol was like also beautiful and accomplished, but she was, more the creative type, and
Okay.
the freelance writer, and she was mostly dependent on Jessica financially. And it kind of comes down to eventually money becomes a contentious issue, even
Got
though
it.
everyone sees them as these, you know, um, perfect couple kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, the perfect kind of couple. Carol has these outbursts of anger at one point when they're visiting Jessica's family. Um, Jessica's mom catches Carol smoking pot and she didn't like it. And she like throws a big fit. How can your mom be upset at me smoking pot? And then at one point, they're at security at the airport and they want to take a look at her computer. And she basically like threw herself on the floor and had a fit.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. In front of, like security is like, what's wrong with her? And
Wow.
Jessica has to apologize for her quite a bit because of
Yeah.
her, big outbursts. They'd be at parties and they would get in a fight and then like go into a bedroom and close the door so they could, continue to fight.
Fight it out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is interesting. Most like couples, it doesn't matter the gender. You can tell if someone's pissed at you, like they'll kick you under the table or something,
Sure.
but usually save it for later.
Yeah. I mean, that's that. That bugs me. That's one of the like.
It's a big one.
I save your fight for later. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you
Why
don't
are
need
you
to
ruining
hash it out.
everyone else's evening?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that either. So even though, Carol Ann has this very kind of high exposure job working in HuffPost, it doesn't, pay a lot, and she is finally, I have to get away. Jessica and I are not good for each other. And she tells a friend, I'm gathering the strength I need to do the unpleasant work that lies before me. I want to get the house ready to sell. We can split the profits and then we can move on.
Okay.
That's in September.
Okay.
A week later, she says to the same friend, I have so much work to get done in order to put the house on the market. My goal is to list this in late September, early October, and hopefully get this sale done by the end of the year.
Okay.
And it's speeding up because Jessica has a new girlfriend in New York, and they spend a lot of time FaceTiming.
Oh, okay.
And Carol can't take it.
Doesn't like that.
No.
Yeah.
And she says, I feel trapped. And they said, this breaks my heart. And I swear to God, this is not a mental health podcast. I swear to God. Friends noted that she was like rotating between highs and lows and like spiraling, and she would just get deeper and deeper into depression. And several of them had said to her, would you consider like taking medication? And she would say, I would rather be sad than chemically dependent. If it works for you, that's great, but it's not for me. Most people I know who've taken them never seem to get off the merry-go-round.
Okay. But it's not a reason to not to try.
Right. That's beautifully said. That's beautifully said. When my mom died, everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna collapse," and because she was she was my everything, and I was like, "Well, maybe." And so I went to just like my GP who prescribed, back in the 90s, Prozac.
Okay.
So I took it for a year.
Right.
And I didn't feel sad, but I also didn't feel happy. I didn't feel right. And it took me a while to notice I wasn't feeling joy or sadness. So I stopped taking it after a year. And that's that. I mean,
Sure.
I know it's been helpful. I'm sure it's been helpful. And there are a litany of other SSRIs that people can take now. But you made the most important point.
Take care of yourself.
Try. Maybe it wouldn't work for you, but how do you know?
Right.
You can't go on other people's experiences. From what I understand, antidepressants aren't a long-term thing. It's to maybe help you get over, a certain, point. And it's so funny, after Mark died, I didn't sleep very much. And I finally said to my GP, I have to sleep. I can't take it anymore.
Right.
So she prescribed something called trazodone.
Okay.
Now, what's fascinating is when you find out the number of people who are like, oh, I take that. And I take it only at night. And I was like, what is this? And I guess it's a combination of three things. Two of the ones I know are it's supposed to help you sleep.
Okay.
And it has some form of an antidepressant or anti-anxiety, maybe.
Okay.
Because it's not an SSRI. It's not a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. But it's, I guess it's like an anti-anxiety.
Okay.
So a number of friends I knew, when I was like, the doctor prescribed trazodone, which I kept getting confused with tramadol, which is for dogs.
That's a whole different thing. Yeah.
I was like, I'm taking tramadol. And they're like, no, you're not.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay. But apparently, after I looked it up, tramadol can be used on humans, but it's mostly for dogs. Anti-anxiety for dogs.
Okay.
So I would have friends who go, oh, yeah, I take Ativan when I'm upset or nervous. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't realize you could take things
and it's
on an as-need basis. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of people I knew in my life were taking something that I didn't know they were taking.
Sure.
And if it helps them, I'm so sad for Carol Ann. Really sad for Jessica, but sad for Carol Ann too.
Yeah.
So the last time her friend Helen sees Carol Ann, she is sobbing uncontrollably and says, I have to leave here, Helen. I don't even want to go back to that house. Not with her there. I can't take it. Jeez. And Helen is like, you have to move out. You have to do this. So at noon on Friday, October 24th, Boynton Beach police announced they find Jessica's body, and calls to the house and to Carol's cell phone went to voicemail. The neighbors and other reporters knocked on the door, and all of those went unanswered. When the officers do a welfare check at about 2:30 p.m., they go around to the back of the house where one of the greyhounds is barking its head off. And in the backyard, they find Carol in a pool of blood next to the screened-in pool.
Oh.
When we first found her, Detective Martinez said, and secured the scene, we weren't even sure what was going on. I didn't know if Carol was distraught or, if she knew Jessica was not missing anymore, or maybe it was a double murder, set to look up like suicide.
Sure.
So, but when they move room to room, Martinez noticed what looks like a single drop of brown paint on the door near the garage. Then there's some near the washing machine. And since the rest of the garage appeared undisturbed, there were piles of furniture, scuba gear, old lamps.
We're packing up. Okay.
The detective didn't think much about it. Only later, when another detective found a similar spot on the wall in the cabana bathroom, did they test both drops of blood and determine they were blood. What looked like brown paint. So then they get warrants and they spend the rest of the afternoon moving the furniture around. The first place the crime investigators looked with luminol was the back bathroom, which makes sense because you go there to clean up. And they find it lit up pretty extensively. So what luminol does, it attaches to the iron that's found
in iron. Okay.
in hemoglobin. So it lit up pretty extensively with, it's like a blue purple color.
Okay.
The Boynton Beach crime scene investigators sprayed the chemical on the bathroom wall near that spot of blood, and the entire wall began to glow.
Oh, wow.
It looked like it had just been sprayed everywhere, and they put luminol in the sink, and it started to glow.
Okay.
So there was so much blood in the bathroom, they thought that's where it took place. But it's not.
Oh, wow.
Detective Martinez said, we originally thought the murder must have occurred in that room. There was evidence of blood on every wall, all over the shower, the door, the mirror, the tile floor. The sink apparently had gotten stopped up at one point and had overflowed to the point when it went down to the front of the cabinets, because when they sprayed luminol, it was in the entire front of the cabinets.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So even with all of that, it didn't compare to what they found in the garage.
Oh, jeez.
So there's carpeting and futon and scuba gear, and they move it all out of the way. And the luminol revealed what looked like a floor where you would slaughter animals.
Oh, my gosh.
There had been, at one point, 3 large puddles of blood and a set of footprints that maps out the killer's path. There was more blood in the washing machine, patterns outlining where Jessica's car had been parked, while she had pulled in the garage.
Oh, God.
And then was met by her ex-wife.
Oh, my God.
So, there's some dispute by friends and family members about what, could have happened or did happen. But what they believe happened is that on the 22nd, Carol spent the day helping her friend Helen's mother move. Jessica is on the phone with her new girlfriend, chatting via webcam. Jessica showed her new haircut, and it's like sassy and spiky. She'd gotten it like cut short in the back. And then she left and went to LA Fitness and checked in at 7:48.
Okay.
Worked out for an hour. Carol is home, building anger. Jessica pulls in her garage with her BMW. Carol confronts her in a rage, and the thing closest to her is a screwdriver.
Oh.
Because there were scratches on the car door and the driver's side window, police believe Jessica was still in her car when the attack began.
Oh, jeez.
When Jessica got out, Jessica is bigger and stronger than Carol, but Carol is fueled by...
She's...
Sorry, Matthew, there's fucking stupid cars. Carol is fueled by, rage and anger.
Rage,
yeah. So she, is in the car, but she gets out, and Carol just doesn't stop. She doesn't stop swinging for her ex-wife.
Wow.
Jessica's forearms are scratched. Her hands are punctured. Her teeth are chipped. Her front teeth are chipped. She struck Jessica in the chest, in the face, in the shoulders.
Oh my gosh.
Jessica fell to the ground. There's blood beneath where the car had been parked. So that suggests that she had tried to like crawl underneath it to escape.
Wow.
Yeah. She's much taller and stronger than Carol, and her hands are outstretched. They can see where she's desperately trying to get away and hide under the car. At one point, she crouches in the back of the car near the driver's side tire, and they think that's where probably the final blow happened, and it severed her spinal cord.
Wow.
222 stab wounds.
Oh my gosh.
222 stab wounds.
That is crazy.
A large percentage of them are at the base of her neck, the back of her head, and they think maybe she was
Crouching and
acting out
cowering.
at her new haircut.
Oh,
Because she was telling her new girlfriend about her new haircut.
got it.
And then like she's destroying her hair.
Got it.
So let's see, I'm sorry. The lacerations were on average an inch to an inch and a half deep. And then they end up being shaped like tiny plus signs, which is the tip of a Phillips head screwdriver.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This is the part that just levels me. It was such overkill. They think the attack lasted 20 minutes.
Oh man.
After the attack, Carol pulled Jessica's body toward the trunk, puts her in the back of the car instead. She leaves hair and blood all over the trunk, on the tires, on the bumper, and she, shoves her at first into the driver's side, into the passenger side, and then ends up, walking around and putting her, that's why there's blood in the front. And she ends up walking around and dragging her to the driver's side back seat, shoving her under the seat.
Wow.
So what they think happened is that, I'm sorry, Matt, I turned my phone off, but I think we talked too long. My fault. I'm too chatty. It's a podcast. Okay. So what they think happened is that Carol drove Jessica's BMW with her stuffed in the back to this, parking lot around the corner from a police substation, and ditches it between two dumpsters.
Good choice.
I know. And she throws a broken cigarette on the back seat, trying to throw police off. And Jessica was an anti-smoker. It's like, I guess she's trying to like, hey, somebody who smoked killed her.
Yeah, okay.
In such a rage for her BMW that no one stole.
Yeah.
And then she walks 2 miles home in the rain.
Wow.
Started to clean up everything. She mopped up the blood in the garage, except for the parts that had run down that she could cover with scuba gear and then she tries to wash up in the bathroom and tried to not track blood through the house. And she tried to clean up everything. After she got changed, she then drove a mile in the opposite direction and dropped Jessica's keys and wallet in a rough neighborhood, and that's Pyramid Books.
Oh man.
Yeah. And of course someone turns it in because, So, later she put like rugs over the spots in the garage where most of the blood had been, and then put furniture over top of those rugs.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the part that's, I guess you're in an altered state. She then made herself some food and then worked on her resume.
Oh, well, yeah, as one does.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then, when she gets the call saying, hey, we found Jessica's wallet and keys, that's when she makes the 911 call and probably practiced how to sound panicked.
Okay. So whoever found the wallet called her directly.
Yeah. Whoever found it at Pyramid Book said, hey, this person's wallet and keys are here.
Got it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So she calls 911, walks through the house, like clicking her heels, and then realizes her life is going to unravel.
Yeah.
So she spent most of that night talking to the police, and a neighbor said she just kept saying over and over again, where could she be? I don't know where she is. While she's just totally pacing back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So as much as I am grateful for journalists like Michael Mooney, this reporter from KP TV, Channel 5 at the time, Danielle Dubitz, shows up at the house and knocks on the door with a camera person. And, Carol answers the door, but she's, by all accounts, looks like she hasn't slept in many days.
Sure.
She agrees to email photos of Jessica, but said she didn't want to appear on camera. And this is something interesting. Danielle Dubitz noticed something while she's talking to Carol Ann. She said she kept repeating over and over again, I don't know where she is. I don't know where she could be. Where could she be? I don't know where she is. But for someone who's supposed to be grieving, she can't make eye contact. I think a lot of people probably can't make eye contact, but she said, here's this reporter who's weighing in. Normally, people are in such distress, they stare at you in your eyes and it cuts you to your core. We were the first person there to talk to her. And, typically people are pleading for help. They're asking for us to help, find their missing family member.
Sure.
And she wasn't looking at me at all, which felt really strange. So sometime between 11:30 a.m., when the reporter and the cameraman leave, and 2:30 in the afternoon, when the police arrive, Carol brought a .38 caliber pistol into the dining room, took it out of its case, loaded the gun, walked out back by the pool, turned around, faced the sliding glass door so she could see herself, took her flip-flops off and her reading glasses and placed them on a glass patio table, and placed the gun under her chin.
Wow.
Nobody heard the shot, but the bullet left a hole in the top of the screen.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When police find her body that afternoon, they notice like a deep L-shaped abrasion on her knee, and it looked pretty fresh. They couldn't imagine where it came from, but when they examined the garage, they noticed there's a large metal Coleman toolbox that she brushed by on her way when Jessica pulled in the garage.
Wow.
And one drawer is open, and it contained all of the screwdrivers. Yeah. So what they think is that Carol comes running towards the car,
and smashed it with her knee
as soon as Jessica pulls in.
Yeah.
And she hit her leg on the metal part of the drawer. And who knows, maybe that was what pushed her. And then she grabbed whatever was close, which was a screwdriver.
Yeah. And you got to think, so here's my, like, she just grabbed a screwdriver. She didn't mean to murder her. She meant to hurt her. Because if she was stewing for an hour while she's working out, she would have gone and grabbed the .38 and shot her when she got home. So she didn't mean to kill her when she got home. She meant to fight.
Scare her, threaten her.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I really hadn't thought of that.
And then the rage built all the way to 222. Oh my
puncture
gosh.
wounds. Yeah. And they, people are weighing in, legal experts are saying it's really difficult to get divorced and to become disentangled when you're a same-sex marriage in a state like Florida.
Yeah.
So your marriage is recognized in another state, but not where you are. And they were trying to, equitably split everything.
Yeah.
It just, there really isn't or there wasn't an appropriate or legal way out.
Sure.
Which is, heartbreaking. And while I appreciate what you're saying, I hadn't thought that it wasn't premeditated. It was, an act of, passion. I don't know, 222.
I don't mean to justify it at all. I just mean the thought process. Yeah. No, 222 stab wounds is not appropriate.
No. It's interesting. I really do like your theory. And it's interesting that Carol didn't just kill herself right then, which is probably what I would feel like what a dude would do. Dudes are like, if I can't have you, no one can. I'm killing you and myself.
Right.
Of course, there are those who, there are those who are like, I'm going to kill you, and then I don't really want to kill myself, but I'm going to try and hide what I did.
Yeah.
And I think that she, behaved like that and then realized, oh, they're going to find me. They're going to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was rather than rather than pay for the crime.
Yeah. Michael Mooney makes this very important, statement. He said, these people had what looked like a perfect life, a beautiful house, lovely cars, but they were not impervious to the stresses of a relationship going south, worries over money, and the desperate pain of mental illness.
Yeah.
They're just like us.
Yeah.
People are people. It doesn't matter who you love or, what your gender.
Absolutely.
This story, it would have just been another terrible story, but because of the way Michael Mooney wrote this, I thought it was like beautiful and poetic.
Yeah.
And it just shows people are people. These two people who have a beautiful life, it still doesn't mean shit like this isn't going to happen.
Right.
It's one of those things that people talk about with social media. Like, people only post the good shit. I post the good shit, and I also post the bad shit. Because I don't have a filter.
Sure.
So I'm just like, it's just all out there.
Right.
I don't particularly like when people only, show living our best lives.
Yeah.
Because that isn't true.
No, it's not. No, and that's, I mean, it's a general toxic positivity. Like that's a whole tangent.
Right.
But yeah.
Toxic positivity, I love it.
No.
Yeah. I forget about that phrase every now and then it comes roaring back.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a good one. It's a good one.
Because feeling your feels is uncomfortable.
It is. And sometimes more uncomfortable for other people.
And that watching somebody feel, but that's what we're here to do. Like,
Walk
let's
each
be
other
human.
home.
And yeah, I like that.
I do too. I love that. That's what we're here to walk each other home.
Totally.
So sometimes I have to cover a case that is solved. And while this, isn't officially solved,
Sure,
we know what happened.
Right.
I know there's not some crazed killer walking around who killed Jessica, tried to stage things, and then came back and killed Carol Ann.
Right.
So I had to cover it. And I mean, I hate to say this, it's like a palate cleanser because it's such a terrible story.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gets overwhelming talking about cases that aren't solved.
Sure.
So something like this,
it closed loops.
It brings me a little bit of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a slice of life that, again, we've seen it lots of times, but I thought that the perspective of these two brilliant, successful women who met, dated briefly, didn't date for 20 years, got back together, got married.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the interesting relationship part for me.
Yeah.
And I guess as much as you can love, you can turn that around.
Sure.
I hate to think of it. There's, I always would say, don't kill your spouse. There's divorce. But if you're in a situation where you maybe legally it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah. Divorce isn't fun.
No, sir.
But I can only imagine how
murder
less fun it would be than
murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that cheery note, if you have a tip on a missing person or unsolved homicide, or you just want to suggest a case, please give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. Any of the social media platforms, there's the Just the Tipsters Facebook page, JT Tipsters on Instagram, JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell.